When are you going to swear in Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva?
As soon as we get back to legislative session, when Chuck Schumer allows us to turn the lights back on.
Why haven't you done it already?
Because this is the way the institution works. I'm following the Pelosi precedent, by the way, when my dear friend from Louisiana, Julia Letlow, was elected to fill the seat of her deceased husband because of COVID. Nancy Pelosi took 25 days to swear her in. By the way,
are you saying? Let me stop you. Are you saying that Nancy Pelosi refused to swear her in earlier?
No, I'm saying that's my very point. Is this is the normal
my
process.
Understanding is that was the date that actually the Representative-elect Letlow at the time requested.
No.
She had obviously her.
Okay, here's some more examples, okay?
No, but wait a minute. You mentioned the Pelosi precedent, but Pelosi didn't delay that.
Let me give you more of the Pelosi precedent, okay?
And what about the Johnson precedent? Because you swore in 2 Republicans the day after their election.
I'm happy to answer. Pelosi precedent. Pat Ryan, Joe Simpolinski.
Donald Trump just went completely nuclear on one of his own, and the threats he's making against MAGA Mike Johnson are so vicious, so unprecedented, that even hardened political operators are shocked by the brutality of this Republican civil war. The moment Johnson cast his vote to release the Epstein Files, Trump unleashed a barrage of public threats on Truth Social, warning of consequences for Republicans who side with the deep state, while privately calling GOP members and promising to destroy anyone who follows Johnson's lead. We're not talking about subtle political pressure here. We're talking about direct threats to end careers, strip funding, and unleash primary challengers against anyone who dares to support transparency over Trump's desperate need for secrecy. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest, you can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us. Be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
They were elected during an August recess. So 21 days later, when the House returned to regular legislative session, they were administered the oath. That's what we're doing. We're not in session right now. Rep. Grijalva was elected after the House was out of session. As soon as we return to legislative session, as soon as the Democrats decide to turn the lights back on so we can all get back here, I will administer the oath on the first day.
You could swear her in tomorrow, right?
No, not tomorrow. No, we couldn't. We wouldn't. There was an exception for 2 Floridians earlier in this Congress, but the reason was they were duly elected, they had a date set, they flew in all their friends and family, and the House went out of session.
So if she flies in friends and family, then
we don't have a date set. She was elected after.
The phone call between Trump and Johnson after the vote was reportedly so explosive that staffers in nearby offices could hear Trump screaming through the walls. Sources say Trump called Johnson every name imaginable, threatened to personally campaign against him, promised to bankrupt him politically, and even suggested that Johnson might want to consider whether his family was ready for what was coming. The phrase, "loyalty has consequences," has become Trump's new rallying cry. And he's making it crystal clear that betraying him on the Epstein Files is an unforgivable sin that will be punished with maximum vengeance. What's absolutely stunning is watching the Republican Party tear itself apart in real time over this issue. House GOP hardliners are openly calling for Johnson's censure and removal from key committees. MAGA activists are organizing protests at his district offices. Trump-aligned media is running hit pieces calling him a traitor and a deep state plant. Meanwhile, Johnson is standing firm, repeating his mantra of truth before loyalty and daring Trump to do his worst. The collision between these two forces is creating a political earthquake that's reshaping the entire conservative movement. Trump's threats aren't just aimed at Johnson. They're a warning to every Republican who might be thinking about following his lead. He's reportedly calling members personally, having intermediaries deliver messages, and using every tool at his disposal to maintain control. The message is clear. Vote with Democrats on transparency, and I will end your political career. Support the release of the Epstein Files, and you'll face primary challengers, funding blocks, and the full wrath of the MAGA movement. It's political terrorism, and it's happening right out in the open for everyone to see. The timing of this meltdown couldn't be worse for Trump. The Epstein Files are coming out in 30 days, whether he likes it or not, and his violent reaction to Johnson's vote is telling everyone exactly how damaging he believes those revelations will be. If Trump had nothing to hide, if the files contained nothing embarrassing or incriminating, why would he be threatening to destroy anyone who voted for transparency? The fury of his response is essentially a confession that whatever's in those documents is catastrophic for him personally. Behind the scenes, the fury is even more intense than what we're seeing publicly. Trump has assembled a war room specifically dedicated to destroying Johnson and anyone else who defects. their opposition researching their own party members, digging up dirt, preparing attack ads, and coordinating with primary challengers. The resources being deployed against Johnson are usually reserved for defeating Democrats in general elections, but now they're being turned inward in the most vicious GOP civil war we've ever witnessed. Let's examine the specific threats Trump is making and how they're reshaping Republican politics in real time. On Truth Social, Trump posted a series of increasingly unhinged messages about Johnson, calling him a failed congressman, a secret Democrat, and suggesting he might have his own Epstein connections to worry about. That last insinuation is particularly vicious. Trump is essentially threatening to manufacture scandals against Republicans who don't fall in line. The message to other GOP members is terrifyingly clear. Oppose me, and I'll destroy you with lies, if I can't destroy you with truth. The campaign retaliation Trump is threatening is already being organized. MAGA-aligned groups are recruiting primary challengers for Johnson's seat, promising unlimited funding and Trump's personal endorsement to whoever runs against him. They're not waiting for the next election cycle. They're starting now, organizing rallies in Johnson's district, running ads calling him a traitor, and trying to make his life so miserable that he either backs down or quits politics entirely. This isn't normal political hardball. This is an attempt to completely annihilate someone for voting their conscience. Trump's use of intermediaries to deliver threats is particularly insidious. He's having major donors call Republicans and threaten to cut off funding if they support transparency. He's having influential conservative media figures warn that anyone who sides with Johnson will be blacklisted from Fox News and other friendly outlets. He's even reportedly having family members of GOP congressmen contacted and warned about the consequences of disloyalty. The mob-like tactics being employed are shocking even to people who thought they'd seen everything from Trump. The censure resolutions being prepared against Johnson are remarkable for their vindictiveness. They don't just criticize his vote. They accuse him of betraying his constituents, violating his oath of office, and conspiring with Democrats to damage the Republican Party. Some versions even suggest he should be expelled from Congress entirely. The fact that Republicans are trying to destroy one of their own for voting for transparency about a pedophile's network shows how completely Trump has corrupted the party's moral compass. What's particularly revealing is which Republicans are leading the charge against Johnson and which are staying quiet. The loudest voices calling for his destruction are those with the closest ties to Trump, those who might have their own reasons to fear what's in the Epstein Files. Meanwhile, Republicans who've maintained some independence from Trump are notably silent, neither defending nor attacking Johnson. This split is creating a map of who's compromised and who might still have some integrity left. The funding blocks Trump is threatening could be devastating for Republicans who rely on MAGA donors. Trump still controls enormous fundraising power through his various PACs and his influence over major donors. He's making it clear that money will be weaponized against anyone who supports transparency. For congressmen in competitive districts who need every dollar to win re-election, this threat could be politically fatal. Trump is essentially holding the entire party's fundraising apparatus hostage to protect his Epstein secrets. Johnson's response to these threats has been remarkably courageous. Instead of backing down or trying to appease Trump, he's doubled down on his position. He released a statement saying, "No amount of threats, no amount of intimidation, no amount of political retaliation will make me regret voting for the truth." He's essentially daring Trump to follow through on his threats, calculating that standing up to Trump might actually help him politically in the long run. It's a massive gamble, but Johnson seems to believe that history will vindicate him. The reaction from Democrats to Trump's threats has been strategic. They're not rushing to Johnson's defense. They know that would only make things worse for him with Republicans. Instead, they're highlighting Trump's threatening behavior as evidence of consciousness of guilt. If Trump has nothing to hide in the Epstein Files, why is he so desperate to punish anyone who votes for transparency? Democrats are using Trump's own reaction as proof that the files contain damaging information he's desperate to keep hidden. International observers are watching this Republican civil war with fascination and concern. The idea that a former president would openly threaten his own party members for voting for transparency about a sex trafficking scandal is being covered as evidence of American democratic decay. Allied nations are privately expressing worry about what this means for American stability. Authoritarian governments are using it as propaganda, saying American democracy is no different from their systems where party loyalty trumps everything else. So, what are the immediate and long-term consequences of Trump's threats against Johnson and any other Republicans who might support transparency? In the short term, we're seeing the complete breakdown of party unity, just as Republicans should be preparing for the 2026 elections. Instead of focusing on defeating Democrats, they're tearing each other apart over whether to protect Trump's secrets or support transparency about Epstein. This internal warfare is going to cost them seats, donors, and credibility with voters who are sick of the drama. The primary challenges Trump is orchestrating against transparency supporters could reshape the entire Republican Party. If Trump succeeds in destroying Johnson and anyone else who defects, it sends a message that the party belongs to Trump completely and dissent will not be tolerated. But if Johnson survives, if he wins his primary, despite Trump's opposition, it could inspire other Republicans to break free from Trump's control. These primary battles will essentially be referendums on whether the GOP remains Trump's personal vehicle or returns to being a normal political party. The escalation of threats and retaliation is creating a dangerous precedent for American democracy. We've never seen a former president so openly threaten sitting members of Congress for voting their conscience. The normalization of these mob-like tactics could permanently damage our political culture. If threatening to destroy anyone who doesn't follow your orders becomes acceptable, we're no longer living in a democracy. We're living in an autocracy with democratic window dressing. Trump's threats are also having an unintended consequence. They're making more Republicans consider whether they want to remain in a party that operates like this. Several GOP members have privately told reporters they're disgusted by the threats against Johnson and are considering whether to become independents. The brutal tactics Trump is employing might maintain short-term control, but could lead to a long-term exodus of reasonable Republicans who don't want to be part of what the party has become. The countdown to the Epstein Files release now has an added dimension of political violence. Not physical violence, but the complete destruction of political careers for those who supported transparency. Every day that passes, Trump's threats become more desperate and more extreme. He knows the files are coming out regardless, but he's determined to punish anyone who didn't fight to keep them secret. It's the behavior of someone who knows devastating information is about to be revealed and wants everyone to know there will be consequences for not protecting him. Legal experts are noting that some of Trump's threats might actually cross the line into criminal behavior. Threatening members of Congress to influence their votes could potentially be obstruction of justice or witness intimidation if those members are potential witnesses in ongoing investigations. The Department of Justice is reportedly monitoring the situation, though it's unclear whether they would actually prosecute a former president for threatening congressmen. The fact that it's even being discussed shows how far beyond normal political behavior Trump has gone. The media coverage of Trump's threats is intense and largely negative, even from usually friendly conservative outlets. Some Fox News commentators have criticized Trump for going too far, saying that threatening Republicans for voting for transparency makes the party look guilty and corrupt. When you've lost Fox News on an issue of party loyalty, you know you've crossed a line. But Trump seems beyond caring about media coverage. He's in full survival mode, lashing out at anyone he sees as a threat. Johnson's courage in the face of these threats is already inspiring other Republicans to speak out, albeit carefully. Some are saying that while they didn't vote for the transparency bill, they respect Johnson's right to vote his conscience without facing destruction. Others are quietly suggesting that Trump's extreme reaction validates Johnson's decision. If the files contain nothing damaging, why the nuclear response? These cracks in Trump's wall of support might be small now, but they could become chasms when the files are actually released. The business implications of this GOP civil war are significant. Major corporations that donate to Republicans are having to choose sides. Do they support Trump's authoritarian tactics, or do they side with transparency and risk his wrath? Many are choosing to simply stop donating to anyone until the dust settles, which is creating a funding crisis for Republicans at the worst possible time. Trump's threats are literally costing the party money it can't afford to lose. The psychological impact on Republicans who are being threatened must be severe. These are people who've supported Trump for years, who've defended him through every scandal, who've tied their political careers to his success. Now they're being told that one vote for transparency makes them enemies who must be destroyed. The cognitive dissonance of being attacked by someone you've loyally supported must be overwhelming. Some are reportedly seeking therapy to deal with the stress of being targeted by their own party leader. As we watch this unprecedented political violence unfold, it's important to recognize what it represents. Trump's threats against Johnson and other Republicans aren't just about the Epstein Files. They're about maintaining absolute control through fear. He's showing everyone that crossing him, even on a matter of obvious moral clarity like transparency about sex trafficking, will result in total destruction. It's the behavior of a cornered animal, lashing out at anyone who won't help him escape. The bottom line is this: Trump's vicious threats against MAGA Mike Johnson for voting to release the Epstein Files have exposed the true nature of his control over the Republican Party. It's based entirely on fear, not loyalty or shared principles. The fact that he would try to destroy someone for supporting transparency about a pedophile network tells you everything about his moral compass and what he's trying to hide. Johnson's courage in standing up to these threats might inspire others to follow, but the cost of defying Trump is now crystal clear. The Republican Party is eating itself alive, and Trump's desperate threats are only accelerating the carnage. The Epstein Files will be released in 30 days regardless, but the damage Trump is doing to his own party in trying to prevent that release might last for generations.